Hey everyone, it's Sarah here. Welcome back. This is my belated Victober wrap-up in which I read North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, and that was it. So essentially it's a review of North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, which I absolutely adored. People, this is a romance. I wish that someone had told me this was a romance novel years ago. I would have read it way a long time ago as opposed to waiting until now. I do have to say my experience was definitely heightened because I watched the BBC miniseries with Richard Armitage almost as I was reading the book, like a little bit delayed, so it was so much fun to read and watch at the same time and see the differences because they were so fresh in my mind. So this book follows Miss Hale, who is raised more with her wealthier aunt's family and her cousin. They have a bit more money, and she seems to spend a lot of her young adult years with them and not with her own family. Her cousin marries, and then she goes and lives full-time again with her parents, who live, I forget what Hillsbrook, which is just a beautiful countryside village. Her father works in the church there, and she lives a very quiet, ladylike life there for a brief time with her parents until her father decides that he needs to leave the church. He then moves them to an industrial town of Milton, where Margaret Hale meets a lot of different people and really grows up quite a bit. I have a dog. Margaret herself is a very interesting character. She has a lot to say and not a lot of experience to back it up really at the beginning. So it's interesting to watch her grow in experience through the book. I really loved the talk about the mills and how the love interest, although love is not like the central focus of this book, people, but Mr. Thornton, his mill is considered safer than some of the other mills. And so I'm like, ooh, early workers' safety. There's also the unions versus the mill owners is a very big topic in this book, and I found all of that about society incredibly interesting. It was something I had never really thought about before. So I liked that. There's also the issues of class, which, I mean, America has class distinctions. Let's be real here. But it was very interesting to see that although technically her family, you know, he's a gentleman because he's in the church, you know, the landed people and the people that, even though they had no money, that they were still of technically a higher class than these rich mill owners, and the friction that goes along with that. So that was very interesting. I will admit the first couple hundred pages were a touch slow, but the rest of the book was not. As a matter of fact, my only real criticism is how abruptly it ended. I felt like, considering it is about, I mean, it's like 500 pages, I believe. The last couple chapters were like very, 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 very fast, and it was like, okay, we're done. And I didn't see the point in that. I mean, the book is already 500 pages long, so, you know, you could have fleshed that out just a little bit. But that's really the only criticism that I have of this book. I do recommend that you definitely get your hands on the miniseries as well. There are some changes. Margaret's mother's part is definitely, don't lick me in the face, is definitely smaller in the miniseries, and the way the ending is accomplished is different. But considering how quick the ending was in the book, I found the miniseries to be a bit more satisfying. You know, it kind of rounded the whole thing out a little bit better somehow, watching the people act it out. So I would definitely recommend getting that. It was an absolutely fantastic. The whole thing was fantastic. I put this book on my favorite shelf. I gave it 5 stars. The whole experience was absolutely delightful. And I recommend it if you are a romance lover of any sort, if you like especially classic romance. And as for the language, I did want to speak about the language in the book. We tend to think of Victorian literature and think of Charles Dickens right off the bat. And you know, the language in his books and the sentence structure is incredibly complicated in his works, and they take forever. But this book was maybe a step above our normal use of English. It was very accessible. It was not a difficult read. I really whizzed through it not much slower than I would any other novel. So do take that into consideration and give it a try. So 5 stars from me. I enjoyed myself this Victober, that's for sure. I wish I could have read more, but that's okay. There'll be another Victober next year, I hope. So thank you for listening to this little review, and I will see you all again very shortly. Bye-bye.